So thank you everybody for being here. Now I'm part of the group. We have here today Miika. He's one of the accelerators. He's part of one of the accelerators that is based in Finland. He also belongs to the Aalto University, right?
Yeah,
that's right. And he's probably the most knowledgeable guy in FIWARE that we have. A few months ago, the European Union set up like a special fund for some accelerators to try to promote FIWARE, and we were one of the ones that we were there. So Miika and I, we know each other for about, I don't know, 4 or 5 months or a little bit over that.
Since April, I was there.
Yeah, that's right. And I asked Miika to have this call because we don't have much time until the accelerator called Impact, that they release one of the last calls you may have for getting on board into FIWARE. So the idea about this call is to try to have, the idea of this mentoring is for you to give you an insight about what it means, FIWARE, for you. And also, Miika is quite techy, it's quite technical. So you can ask all the details also, but if we want to be on time, he only have 30 minutes. If we want to be on time, we can save those for asking later on. Are you okay with that, Miika?
Yeah.
Perfect. So one thing we're going to be doing also is to mute the microphone, because otherwise he's going to be getting a lot of noise on the back. So in case you want to be asking for something, we will unmute and raise our voice. Okay? So thank you, Miika. It's up to you if you want to introduce.
Yes. So my name is Miika Tuisku. I am working at the Aalto University in Helsinki. Aalto is the partner in the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, the EIT Digital Network, which forms kind of the backbone of the Innovation Hub network of excellence that Bolt is also part of. So I was happy to be there in April when you had the Malacca Valley event. And let's see if I come again at some point. But so let's go to the real thing. Let's just start the screen sharing if I can. Yes. Okay. This is part of a presentation that I modified a little bit. We had an Open Innovation 2.0 conference at Otaniemi, Espoo, where our offices are. It's maybe an annual event organized by the European Commission. Okay, so FIWARE is considered an open innovation platform. The Incubating Internet Innovation Hubs project is an EU-funded project that both Rafa and me, we are working on. And you can see these different places there on the map. And these are the EIT digital offices. So in Madrid, we have as a partner the IMDEA Foundation. The Future Internet department in the EU Commission is something that is looking after different areas and the internet itself is considered like a pervasive infrastructure for the future, where people and devices are connecting anywhere, anytime with each other. And this is more or less also part of much of the vision of the future wireless technologies and the cybersecurity as well. So it is expected that in a few years we will have a jump from 1 billion users of internet to something like 4 billion. So if you're interested about this agenda that the Commission has set up, then please go to this link. Within this future internet department, there's also a group that is looking after the 5G, the fifth generation of wireless technologies. And these are pretty much representing the same kind of use cases that we deal with the FIWARE and the future internet applications. So you have there smart cars, you have e-health, entertainment, connected houses, and smart grids. This is the electricity network that we have. One of the most common topics when discussing about FIWARE is also the smart cities. So within EU, we are discussing smart cities as a potential marketplace and regional innovation ecosystems that could provide better services to the citizens that are living in the cities. Cities are attracting more and more people and citizens, and they don't want to be locked up in some commercial providers, but they want to have something which is open and allowing free competition to multi-vendor solutions. In the end, we will probably see something called a marketplace for smart city applications, meaning that if you're a startup having some terrific idea what kind of a mobile application could serve the citizens of your city, you could consider the same application in several other places in Europe. And FIWARE is there to actually provide such a platform that is based on some standards that are interoperable throughout Europe. I'm currently here in Tampere, and there was a launch of the second wave of Open Agile Smart Cities initiative. You see here some of the names of the cities that are actually participating in this initiative. There are 6 cities from Finland, but also from Spain, and I can't see Malaga there, but I'm sure you are participating as well. This consortium that is currently, I think, 51 cities large. They have already agreed to use some of the open application interfaces from FIWARE to develop applications on smart cities. And in this picture, you have a number of them. The NGSI is something from the Open Mobile Alliance called Next Generation Service Interface, the Open Data Platform, the CCAN on the bottom. It's from the Open Knowledge Foundation. It's for the open data databases. And on the right, there's something called City SDK. And this is an EU project that was coordinated by Finnish coordinator called Forum Virim. This is the page for the actual EU project. I heard yesterday that it will be part of the FIWARE offering, and we also have a Spanish partner in this project, and that is SAD Foundation from Barcelona. So this is a new development that maybe you could also look into. The speciality of this service development kit for city applications is that it provides linked open data interfaces to some of the data stores. And this is a new development that is based on the semantic web vision of Tim Berners-Lee. This is another slide that is very often presented in FIWARE conferences regarding the open agile smart cities. You can see these different standard interfaces there again, CCAN and NGSI, as well as something called WebRTC. This is a new HTML5 standard for real-time communication. These three...
Sorry,
you have a question?
Yeah, sorry, Miika. It's a quick one. And this is regarding everything we are seeing that very related to smart cities. Is it possible to get a broader view, or that you explain that this is not only for a smart city, but also some other applications? Or, okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'll mute again.
Okay. I will just go a little bit quicker on this. The later slides, I will show different things. But this is something that when you consider mobile applications, which is basically the core of this Impact Accelerator call, it's quite common that these smart city applications may provide you a good user story as the mobile handset or the device is good at aggregating different kinds of information from these sensors, so to speak, presenting and visualizing the open data. Okay, will go a little bit even more to the technical side, but in FIWARE we have something called the context broker, and this is a very common thing that and very central component. So in order to be smart, you must be aware. You sense the environment through sensors, and the context broker collects this information and then provides and triggers some reactions to the applications. This is a component that is something called the publish-subscribe pattern for all the developers. And you should maybe look at that as this is one of the core components of the FIWARE. This is drilling more into the details of the context broker. The component is called Orion in the FIWARE catalog. it works together with a couple other components, like the Big Data Cosmos, which is a Apache Hadoop related component. And there's also something called complex event processing component for all kinds of streaming events to present. But here comes the more overall general part of this. What is the FIWARE technology? So it's an open software platform for creating innovative cloud-based applications. So the Internet of Things, smart cities is very core to this FIWARE platform, but there are different areas for different vertical solutions, and it really depends which EU accelerator call you're applying. You have to maybe select different kinds of components. I haven't looked too much of the impact accelerator, but I know that there are mobile theme, mobile vertical applications, and also creative media type of applications in question. But just to know that the FIWARE wants to create an alternative for the big American technology companies like the Google, Amazon, the Microsoft Azure. And this is by opening up the APIs, having open source reference implementations, the source code, and the open data which is served on the FIWARE platform. The components itself, they are called generic enablers. And you could kind of imagine them being some kind of a Lego blocks. So the idea is that your application can be composed of putting these pieces together, so to speak. And currently there are something like 20 generic enablers, which are the basic building blocks. And then there is something called specific enablers, which are covering something like 80 different components. And altogether, there are something like 100. But there's a movement now to really consolidate and find the strong part of the FIWARE ecosystem and to prepare for open source software community. The idea of having kind of a Lego blocks is not new. For those that are familiar with the Docker tool, it's more or less advertised for the same thing in this kind of a Docker hackathons and things like that. So the Docker is an application virtualization solution that you can quickly prototype things, build, deploy, and run on your own computer with these binary Legos. So for the moment, FIWARE has been built on top of the OpenStack platform. OpenStack is the most popular open source infrastructure as a service offering in Europe. It was invented by, I think, NASA and Rackspace. And this is something which is very familiar for me as well, because CERN, my previous workplace, is using this very heavily. In terms of a developer, the user interface of OpenStack is a little bit heavy. It's targeted for DevOps people more or less, that where you could take care of both the infrastructure and the development of the application. And if you have heard something about the FIWARE lab, this is a experimentation area that the FIWARE community is offering to startups and developers. This is a pure OpenStack installation that is looking a little bit different. It has kind of this FIWARE skin. But the most recent development is that all these FIWARE enablers are going to be packaged into Docker containers. And here you can see an example of this context broker component, the Orion, how to run it on your own computer. So it really takes just one command sentence starting with the Docker command to run it and test it without any kind of a cloud infrastructure on the server side. So I think this is good news for the developers that we are going this way. In May 2015, there was a FIWARE association that did a survey on some 60 startups and SMEs that are part of the FIWARE accelerator calls in during the first year of their operation. And here are some of the results that came out of this survey. Which are the most popular FIWARE components, enablers? And in Finland, we have also done some evaluation on the maturity, and the color coding in here is something that one independent consultant did on some of these components. Basically, all the green ones are very recommendable, mature components. There are some reserves on the yellow ones, and the red ones are not recommended. But this is something we are trying to do within this iHub community as well. Once you become familiar with the components, we are very eager to hear about your experiences, and all the iHubs are expected to report a little bit back. How do they see the maturity of these building blocks and the software? You can't possibly tell much about all these component names. What do they mean? But these are the different categories of components there are. And these are cloud-related services, data, service delivery, Internet of Things components, applications, web user interfaces, security, or interfaces to networks and devices. I would also like to instruct you to go to the FIWARE Association website. It's a fiwareassociation.com or org, if I remember correctly. They have done surveys about the enablers and what is the functionality, quality, and documentation. And here is the snapshot of the different licensing types of the components. So we are in a phase where there are 9 different licenses, open source licenses, being used for different components, but the intention is to consolidate and have just few of these. But it's interesting because it's not always clear which licenses are compatible with each other. In the open source world today, I think Apache 2 is the most popular, as well as the GNU public license is still very common, as is the Linux core is using the GPL, GNU public license. So this was the first taste of what the FIWARE could be. There are still questions. I mean, your guess is good as mine. What could it be? Just one thing to remember is that there are a number of open source projects that are behind these components within FIWARE. It is still perhaps intended to be kind of a industry interoperability and pre-standardization framework to see whether certain components they are interoperable and can work together in an application setting. So if you try to get something out of my presentation, the one thing is just maybe the most important thing is that I try to point you to different directions where you could have a quick and easy way to learn about the FIWARE, because it's very easy to get lost in this information overload. The project has already gone through the 4 first years. Some of the information is a little bit old, and the new information is hidden a little bit in different places. As Rafa also pointed out, that this is software as such, and once you have your minimum viable product using few enablers, which is the requirement for the application calls and accelerators, it is really up to you where you would like to run it. We have iHubs that are running their FIWARE applications on the Google platform, for example. So this is just trying to be an open and libre choice of software to offer to the European developers. Okay, I will go quickly some of the pointers that you might like to have a look on your own. Here is the first one. There's quite a lot of nice things like YouTube videos, tutorials about FIWARE. And since we are discussing about the impact accelerator, you should perhaps look into this. They have done a series of webinars on FIWARE. Some of them are from, like this first one, I think it is from last year, 2014. But the link in this picture, you can access this webinar. It's 35 minutes and there are 6 of them. Regarding the smart city applications, maybe you have been advised already that you have FIWARE success stories in your own city in Malaga. So try not to look too far away. This is citizens application working on mobile devices and the Android platform. There are 3 success stories also in the YouTube that the FIWARE community is advertising. This is one of them called FI Guardian. There's another one called Phone Sense. And the third one is called Small Signals. And if you go through these videos, you can see what kind of a functionality and what kind of FIWARE components were used in them. Telefonica is one of the founding members of the FIWARE project, and they have also the chief technology officer and the coordinator of the project. So maybe you should also have a look at the GitHub page of Telefonica. For example, for mobile applications, they have something called FIWARE SDK, which is based on JavaScript. And it talks to this Orion context broker we discussed earlier. They have also packaged and a nice documentation for the whole FIWARE Internet of Things stack. And it's looking quite good already. In Finland, we have some developments in the FIWARE space. This is normally related to the advanced web user interfaces and the 3D virtual worlds, augmented reality type of applications. So, for example, this is a website of xml3d.org, and it's being used in the FIWARE enabler space with this name, 3D UI XML3D. There are examples what you can do in HTML5 in 3D type of applications, even on mobile. If you are familiar with Google Maps, there's an open source version called GeoServer, and in FIWARE it's called GIS enabler. But more or less, sometimes these open source projects like the GeoServer, they have a much more descriptive website and documentation, which is up to date. So please have a look. When you have big data, open data, then you are certainly also maybe needing data visualization toolkits. And this is something from the engineering company in Italy called Spago BI, open source software framework, which is also found on the FIWARE catalog. This is from Finland as well, called the Real Extent open source platform. This is supposed to be an alternative to Second Life if you want to create virtual worlds in open source. In FIWARE, this is called 3D UI Web Tundra. We touched a little bit on this web RTC, web real-time communication. That is video, audio, this type of a streaming media type of applications. This is one of very most mature and robust components available as well. They have their own website called curento.org, and it is part of the FIWARE offering in the catalog as well. When you want to compose your mashup applications in a WYSIWYG way, that you just drag and drop your components to the screen and design your user interfaces. This is something called the WireCloud. It comes from University Polytechnic of Madrid, and it can be found on its own website, as well as from the FIWARE catalog. I believe in the Impact Accelerator call, there was also something for smart TVs. This is a most recent addition to specific enablers from BBC, the television broadcast company from UK. And you could consider this open source software as well, TV application layer, TAL, if you need to do something with smart TVs. More or less, we have one success story as well from Finland. but maybe due to the shortage of time, I will not go into the details. They are using the GIS, the company Cyberlightning, and the demo can be found from the YouTube. They are visualizing the heat and remote cold network of a heat plant in this graphical GIS application. Okay. So just to conclude, here are my links that you might want to look at. There are MOOCs that are working on the Moodle platform in the edu.fiware.org. You can go to the labs, fiware.org, for the experimentation area, which is based on the OpenStack. You have operations. Maybe that is not something for you to consider now, but please go to the catalog.fiware.org. This is the place where all the enablers are going to be found. So that was my presentation.
So thank you, Miika. We are back on with the microphone. If you hear a lot of back noise and everything, I'm sorry about that. So questions for you guys. Do we have some minutes? A couple of minutes, in case you have. Please.
Yeah.
Go on.
Can you name an example of a company or a project who implemented real-time processing, and how did they benefit from it?
This last company that I mentioned, the Cyberlightning, it's not a prototype, but they actually see in real time what is happening in the heat network in the southern Finland. So they are collecting information like the outside temperature, what is the demand for heating utilities by households and companies, and they can predict the demand which is needed by the company. So this is really an industrial Internet of Things application use case. I can't hear now. I think you're in mute.
Sorry, I'm muted. So I don't think they have questions right now, but maybe I can collect also when they decide to go and bid for this FIWARE call. So I can try to forward you, if you can, also to have some answers about those ones.
Certainly, yes.
I'm gonna try to help them out also to pinpoint what type of applications. Also, some other companies that we had involved were what components they were using, what generic enablers, what specific enablers they were using to try to stimulate also a little bit more what they needed. But I will do after this call. So I will dismiss you. So I know you're a very busy person right now. Mm-hmm. And you're welcome anytime to come back to Malaga. I will try to do my best to get the next IHAB meeting. Most probably, if we're lucky, it's going to be just before these guys are going to be ending the acceleration, which will happen by mid-December. So we'll try to bring you back also. So thank you very much, Miika.
Happy to help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.